I wonder if I can pick up some of the fish.
Resident Evil 4.
Okay, so I'm back where I started, so to speak. I returned to Resident Evil 4, the first Resident Evil game I have ever completed. Maybe even the first one I've played. It was either this one or Outbreak File 2. But now, after all these years, I'm really curious if it still holds up. Is it as good as I remembered? Or is nostalgia tarnishing my view? I have played other groundbreaking games which were good but not amazing, when I played them later. I mean, a while after they were released. So I checked out the Ultimate Edition on PC, which despite the low violence warning on Steam in my region, is actually complete in content and uncut. I'm also able to play it in 4K, which is always nice. So let's start. It begins with our returning champion, serious favorite and lovable dog, Leon Scott Kennedy.
But it doesn't matter now, Mr. Kennedy. I've sent my right hand to dispose of you.
Your right hand comes off?
Leon is, after only one day on the force, now a secret agent for the American government. Quite a promotion, but his one day was in Raccoon City and he killed like at least 200 zombies, plus other monsters, and thanks to the Darkside Chronicles, we know he was also working in at least one other BOW incident in South America. Now he is seemingly bored while he is being driven to a small village in Spain by two annoying cops. His assignment? Nothing less than saving the US president's daughter, who was seemingly abducted by a strange cult in Spain. At the village we try to explore the surroundings.
Not that way, cowboy. Not that way, cowboy.
Alright, let's continue and try to find some friendly villagers.
I was wondering if you might recognize a girl in this photograph?
¿Qué carajo estás haciendo aquí? ¡Lárgate, cabrón!
Sorry to have bothered you.
Freeze! I said freeze!
And yep, they are of course zombies, but not completely brain dead. They are no Einsteins, but they can use weapons, talk and point fingers among other things. But Leon's mother didn't raise an idiot, and he can think and fight back. Resident Evil 4 was one of the first games which had the over-the-shoulder perspective, and it really revolutionized the third-person action gameplay. Sure, you can't walk and aim in part 4 at the same time, something which worried me upon revisiting it, but you know what? It is actually still very much playable, fun and suspenseful, while not feeling like a cheap way to make the gameplay more difficult.
It just works the way it ought to.
It's still fun, only switching to the knife is a bit cumbersome, at least when playing with mouse and keyboard. But maybe not all is lost. Let's get to the town square, and...
Te voy a hacer picar.
Oh boy, it's one of those days again, huh? We continue our journey through the village, and so we meet
The big cheese. What?
the mayor. An imposing villain who makes Leon's life difficult. But don't worry, while this adventure is quite Leon-centric, shows a completely new foreign setting and almost no returning characters, Leon still finds new friends in strange places while looking for the president's daughter. Louis, a scientist who is being held hostage by the cult as well, soon becomes a valuable ally. But as always, there are not only zombies, which have to be killed, but also various different monsters. While the zombies are usually not that difficult to defeat, the bosses really are something else. Already the first fight was more difficult than I remembered. I fight against that giant salamander or gecko or whatever it is supposed to be in the lake. This was pretty tricky. Boss fights in general are quite tense, and you really feel relieved when the fight is over. Another boss which you fight while in the village and trying to find Ashley is a literal giant.
¡Rápido! ¡Jarra! ¡Usa los músculos! ¡Rápido! ¡Apúrense! ¡Por aquí! ¡Rápido! ¡Rápido! ¡Por aquí! ¡Por aquí! ¡Ay! ¡Se vuelve loco! ¡Mierda!
If you have helped the poor animal before,
Hey, it's that dog.
no, it is actually a wolf, Leon. Well, the wolf helps you in the fight against the giant. He's honestly not as helpful as I remembered, but he works perfectly as an emotional support boss fight animal. We also eventually fight the menacing...
The big cheese.
someone they should have had as the main antagonist instead of Sadler in my opinion. We have the fight in a barn, which I didn't actually like that much. While he is a cool boss with two interesting stages for himself, the first part of the fight can be a pain in the upper area. You can simply get one-hitted, something I really hate. The fight itself is also quite tough, but defeating him is super satisfying. But not all is fine and dandy. Leon himself gets injected with the new Las Plagas virus, which infected the villagers and the cult of the Los Iluminados, who reside in a nearby castle. Leon eventually finds Ashley, and while they try to get to the extraction point, of course all hell breaks loose, and after a difficult fight in a cabin against an overwhelming number of infected, they get chased by the villagers once again and decide to take refuge in the nearby castle. As I said, this castle is full of cultists belonging to the Los Iluminados. So we get to the merchant and stock up on supplies. A good point to talk a bit more about the gameplay here, I think. Resident Evil 4 reinvented the series and was a groundbreaking game at the time of its release. It switched the classic survival horror gameplay into a far more action-packed affair. While still offering some scares and some survival elements, it also offers a lot of back then new and fresh gameplay systems and elements. Instead of claustrophobic buildings, we often find ourselves in bigger and more open areas, which serve as arenas with enemies we have to defeat in order to progress. Enemies can drop useful items like healing items, grenades, ammo or money. Money can be spent at a merchant unless you accidentally shoot him, something which seemingly happens to me with every playthrough. The merchant offers upgrades for weapons which can be improved with several points, if available, or you simply buy a new weapon. Some weapons also offer additional parts like stocks or scopes. Leon can also make money by finding valuable items like jewelry or statues, for example. Some items work as sets. For example, you can put jewels into the cat figurine and so it will be more valuable. Weapons range from various pistols to shotguns, MPs, sniper rifles, rocket launchers and a mine thrower, which works more like a grenade launcher, shooting sticky bombs. Oh, and of course there are magnums. The second one is called Killer 7, which reminds me that I should finally play Killer 7 next year. You can also buy a tactical vest later on for Leon, and of course also some other items like ammo and a first aid spray.
But wait! There's more!
Right, the merchant also offers 2 minigames as side quests. The first one is shooting blue medals in the village area. The second one is a bit more tough, and is about a shooting range. Get a high score and unlock bottle caps. If you complete one set, you get a money reward. The bottle caps are also not just bottle caps, but function as extras and show character models which can be viewed. A fun fact is that the merchant is also infected by the Las Plagas virus, and as you progress the infection spreads, as you can see in his eyes. Healing items have also been changed though this time. This time we don't have blue herbs against poisoning. Poisoning doesn't exist here anyways. Instead we have yellow herbs which increase our maximum health. There are also once again green and red herbs which work just as we know it from previous games in the series. There are also various chicken eggs, which are also inside of every snake for some reason, and those also restore health. Another important part of the game is the inventory once again, and I still kind of love it, to be honest, in this one. Instead of having fixed slots for each item, we have this time more of an Tetris system, which in our suitcase or whatever Leon is carrying, and each item has a reasonable size and can be positioned in the suitcase in a way which makes the most sense for the player. The suitcase can also be upgraded by the merchant. Combat is, as I mentioned before, pretty cool and good. You fight groups of larger enemies most of the time. At this point in the game you also encounter enemies which just continue to walk after a critical hit and sometimes grow a giant mutant parasite out of the mouth or neck wound. These parasites vary sometimes. Sometimes it's a giant creature attacking you or biting your head off, or it's a grotesque looking monstrosity with eyes hanging out and a blade swinging around. Enemies also use tools as weapons and can throw scythes or axes. Those can be shot out of hands or out of the air. Some enemies also hold dynamite, which can be shot out of a hand, or you can shoot the dynamite itself and blow up the enemy or even a group of them. Fighting groups of enemies is the main gameplay element, but fortunately Leon is quite good with his guns. And while seeing this I have to applaud the headshots in Resident Evil in general. But here in 4 and the 2 remake they're just the best. If Tom Savini would ever create splatter effects in games, it would be something like these Resident Evil games. Grenades are also useful and come in 3 variants: explosive grenades, incendiary grenades, and flashbangs. Flashbangs are useful against enemies with an exposed parasite as it kills them immediately. Enemies and stunned enemies which are close can be kicked. There are various enemies besides the villagers. There are also giant insects once again, but more about that later in the review. Quicktime events are also used here, and I'm not entirely sure if it's just my age or because I'm not used to QTEs on PC, but I really didn't like them here at some times. I'm not sure if I'm just getting old. They're often very sudden in cutscenes. You have to tap really rapidly at some points, and it can also be affected by your current health, at least in the lake boss fight. There are also a bunch of traps: snakes in boxes, bear traps, villagers shoving a rock down a mountain path, and no Chris to punch it away. There was also this passage with those rocks that stomp down and an obvious lever, which I didn't notice for a shocking amount of time. There's also, just like in the Umbrella Chronicles, a laser trap, similar to the first RE movie. But as Leon is no rookie anymore, he of course aces the deadly trap as well. Another big part of the game, which people seem to hate, is escorting the president's daughter Ashley. And to be honest, I don't get it. Sure, she often screams, but it's not so bad. You can also put her into some hiding spots if you don't want to keep her around, and there are only certain spots when you have to look out for her actively. In one spot you even play as Ashley and can fight back against the cultists in the castle. You go, girl. She can also be helpful in getting into some places. Sure, she isn't a character which is written great, but it fits into the cheesy B-movie story of the game, and there are moments when she stands her ground. Something which hasn't aged well though are all the moments when you catch Ashley jumping from high spots. This was definitely made only to give the player the opportunity to take a look under her skirt. And that's just weird and kind of creepy, to be honest. It does feel kind of out of place, but maybe that's just me. So enough about the general gameplay, let's return to the castle and the story. Soon after we enter the castle we meet another boss for this castle section. While he is not as menacing as the big cheese, he actually is my favorite, I would say. The reason? Glorious awkward trash talking between him and Leon.
I was starting to wonder when you might notice us.
Who are you?
Me llamo Ramon Salazar, the 8th Castellan of this magnificent architecture. I have been honored with the prodigious power from the great Lord Sadler. I've been expecting you, my brethrens.
No thanks, bro.
So maybe you have 9 lives, but it doesn't matter now, Mr. Kennedy. I've sent my right hand to dispose of you.
Your right hand comes off?
Say whatever you please. Die, you worm!
This guy with a Napoleon complex is actually kind of responsible for the outbreak. He got charmed by the local cult, which his family used to ban, and started to help them uncover the ancient Las Plagas parasites. Everything in the castle is basically turned into a medieval attraction venue. The people walk around in cultist robes, using morning stars, crossbows, and some morphos are even using knight armor. They are also using shields made of wood which have to be shot into pieces to hit them. We also find some more info about the background of what's happening. We met another familiar face.
Put your hands where I can see them.
Sorry, but following a lady's lead just isn't my style.
Put them up now.
Bit of advice, try using knives next time. Works better for close encounters.
Leon. Long time no see.
Ada.
Ada is once again helping us in certain situations, but is also following her own secret goals, working for a secretive employer. We also fight some interesting new enemies, like mutated dogs and these blind-bladed zombie monster guys. I guess they cosplay as Wolverine. They are blind but react to sound, so we mostly fight them in big rooms with bells. Shoot the bells, let big guy attack and then aim for the parasite on his back. We also fight giant insects and 2 giants at once. The number of the enemy groups also rise, same goes for the deadly QTEs. We also fight the Castellan's bodyguards. We can even kill one of them, but I kind of thought that was in a later point, so I just left him. I was halfway dead anyways and didn't want to risk anything, so... Eventually we'll fight the Castellan in a fight which is more odd than challenging, but still fine. This leads us to the third location of the game, which I have some mixed feelings about, the Island Lab. Here everything will end. We enter the island and face another type of enemy once again. The zombies here are paramilitary forces turned into infected. They use crossbows, stun batons, there are heavies with miniguns. Some of them have helmets instead of masks, like in the castle, and it gets even more action-packed. But as we progress, we also enter the lab and find the scariest enemy type of the game in my opinion, the Regeneradors. Huge deformed brownish grey enemies with claws and giant mouths, with spiked big teeth. You can shoot off their limbs, but they just regrow, and a later variation of this enemy is using spikes to impale you. Fighting them isn't easy, but I managed to kill every single one of them in the part with Ashley, where I think it's optional. But the way they are presented is just scary. They are rather slow, they are big and always lurking in the dark. They are quite scary and menacing. Being confronted by them for the first time and shooting off their limbs rather easily makes you think they are easy to defeat at first. But when their limbs simply regrow, that's when you feel the panic rising. That's when you feel the tension rising. It also looks pretty cool to kill them. In the lab we also finally get rid of the parasite, which was already high time.
You sure you want to do this?
Yeah.
Alright, here goes nothing.
As we progress, we find our old friend Krauser, even though he is more of a partner. He has been mutating thanks to the virus and is still pretty much hating on Leon, even though he is such a lovable dope.
No thanks, bro.
We eventually defeat him and get to Sadler, who is contacting us via the comm, but it's not as entertaining as with the Castellan. Actually, I think he is the weakest of all bosses here. Krauser is so mean, and his history with Leon, the Castellan is just so much fun, and the big cheese is actually menacing. Sadler is just a guy with a stick in the background. The last part is an action firework, when finally our support attack helicopter appears and starts shooting up the place.
Sorry, bad traffic. I'll cover you.
Llénalos de pólvora. Ahí está.
I'm actually surprised that it doesn't immediately get shot down.
Thanks. When we get out of here, drinks are on me.
Yeah, hey, I know a good bar.
Oh no, not Mike. Everyone but not Mike. Eventually we defeat him in a fight, which is surprisingly easy. But this is not quite the end. We have to escape as the lab and military complex are about to explode. So we grab a jet ski and drive off with Ashley in a sequence which is easy, but just looks and feels so awesome. Once again, Leon Scott Kennedy saved the day and most likely the world.
Behind us!
I know, just hold on.
But wait! There's more!
As I mentioned before, the Ultimate Edition is including all the bonus content, and after a playthrough you will unlock separate ways, which shows you some of the chapters from Ada's perspective, offering a complete short campaign showing another familiar face, when we see she is acting on Wesker's behalf, and secures some Las Plagas specimens for him. The campaign is actually not that short for being just a bonus, as it takes about 3 hours and unlocks costumes and weapons. You also unlock new weapons when beating the main game and when beating Assignment Ada, which offers a bonus chapter in which Ada is collecting 5 specimens. There's also the mercenary mode, but honestly I don't care that much for it, but I think it has its fans. So now with everything said and done, after I went through the whole story, can I say it still holds up?
Yes! Yes!
This game showed me why I actually kind of love Resident Evil. This is a series which just keeps reinventing itself. Except for the short break while playing the remake of the original, I actually just kept playing the RE games. While the first two were kind of slow and not really my kind of game, I still enjoyed them for the most part, especially Zero. The remake of Part 2 was pretty amazing, and when I continued with the spin-offs, there were also nice surprises. The DLC for Operation Raccoon City was fine, the Umbrella Chronicles were really cool, and now with Part 4 I'm not sure if I feel Resident Evil fatigue, to be honest. And I might just continue with the series. I originally planned on stopping for now with the Umbrella Chronicles, but as I write this I have already started the first Revelations game. Even with Part 4 I felt one moment in which I thought I had enough of RE, but the next time I played it I had once again fun, even though this is quite a long game for a single player third-person shooter. The gameplay is still lots of fun, the story feels like the best big budget B-movie ever made, with some actually effective elements which only work in video games. To be honest, I think except for the visuals, this would still be amazing today. For me it is still amazing. Yeah, it does hold up pretty well and will maybe hold up forever. And this is not just nostalgia speaking. This is one and always will be one of the best games ever made. And the issues I have with this game are so minor it doesn't really detract from the experience. And Resident Evil 4 gets a well-deserved perfect score of 10 out of 10.
Hunnigan, is that you?
Finally, the line's jack free.
Hey, Hunnigan, no glasses.
Forget the glasses. What's the status of the mission?
I've rescued the subject. We're returning home.
You did it, Leon.
Thanks. You know, you're kinda cute without those glasses. Give me your number when I get back.
May I remind you that you're still on duty?
Story of my life.